I am Salil, part of Hindustan Media in India. And I run a small division which is called Mosaic Digital. So you would see a name called Mosaic Digital. It really focuses on the enterprise tech, and we sort of build our community through media, journalism, and research with chief information officers. Now we are increasingly going to CEOs of the company as well, because technology is becoming so important. So I kind of track my background is as ex-consultant with IDC, International Data Corporation. And then before that, I was myself in the roles of technology leadership with Royal Bank of Scotland, GE Capital, etc. So I know a little bit of it. Let me say this way, nothing much.
You're being modest.
Not like an extensive experience like you, Aravind. So thank you for joining. It's an honor to talk to you.
Pleasure being on the show, and the very first episode. I feel really honored.
No, it's absolutely. I wanted to bring out something which is very complex for people because, working in 27 countries and some 60 odd offices, 1,600 people. I think for me, you were the epitome of the complexity, I would call it, right? I mean, there are bigger organizations, no doubt, but they are so structured in nature. But, visa processing and sort of, country border crossing, these are complex scenarios. Legal, consultant, lawyers. It's a very complex scenario. So I thought you're the best guy. I mean, you can tell us what practically a practitioner versus a theoretical, a transformation leader would be looking at it. So I will focus on few questions, not much. My focus is not about technology, Aravind. My focus is about Chief Information Leadership. Season's greeting, Aravind. Thank you very much for joining us today on the first episode of the program which we are relaying it today. Now, on this one, Aravind, I would like to start with a little bit of your background, Aravind. I mean, how in terms of you being now a CIO as a technology leader, I mean, if you can just introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Sure. It's a pleasure being on the show. My background has been in engineering, and I did my master's in computer science and engineering in the US. And ever since, I started my journey as a software engineer, working through the ranks, and some of the challenges that were thrown at me, coming through the ranks, were really interesting. And I was fortunate to be in a place to solve some of these complex problems, be it at financial institutions or at a national level, a nonprofit organization called National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and then Capital One, which is a big bank with a serious focus on technology. So I've been fortunate to work through some really complex problems, and that has really shaped me who I am today in terms of my technology experience. That's currently I'm working at CIBT, which is a global travel, mobility, immigration service provider. We are predominantly focused on the B2B business. So 75% of the Fortune 100 companies uses us in their backend to help them mobilize their workforces across the world. And we are now in venturing into the B2C world as well. So, really privileged to be in this role and for a company that is touching the lives of numerous folks across the globe.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, very extensive experience, Aravind. I mean, banking experience, then you're in a very different industry today. I must ask you a question, right? 10 years back, the role of the CIO was very different. Today, this role of a CIO is very different. And I'm assuming that 10 years from now would be very different, right? The leadership has changed from being a facilitator, enabler of technology to actually front-running the revenue streams for organization, I must call it this way. And because of the new disruptions coming, the next leadership, how this path has been traveled by you, and what do you think today is CIO facing a cusp of being a business sort of a directional output or a technology side. They're being pulled up between the two parts, right? I mean, one side a technology side, another side the business side. So where do we think we are tilting the needle?
Yeah, that's a great question, Salil. If you know, 15, 20 years back, if you look at CIO role, it was vastly different from what we do currently. Because CIOs are the back office leaders. You know, it was still a critical role, but was more a back office leader. You know, these are people sometimes in the different building altogether, and not even in the same room as some of the business leaders. But it's drastically different today, right? Technology is the fuel that runs the organization. Any type of business, any industry that you take today, they are influenced by technology. They are impacted by technology, and it is the fuel that runs the organization. And no industry, no business is left, can say that, technology is a second afterthought, right? So CIOs and CTOs play a really big role in this, because leaders in the technology world, they understand the power of technology, and there's a famous saying in the Silicon Valley where any problem, talk to the engineers, right? It could be any type of problem. It could be a HR problem. It's famous companies have born out of this thing, right? Companies like Google, where they say any problem, talk to the engineers. So that mindset has been set in the last 10, 15 years, and CIOs are they understand the technology. They can also understand the business aspect of it, and they can marry this thing and do it in a way that is much more leaner and effective and efficient. So that's today's CIO cannot just stay in the lane of technology. They have to, they should be. I call it. Lane agnostic. You should be able to jump into the business. You should be able to jump into the operations. You should be able to jump into the financial aspect of it, commercial aspect of it, and customer satisfaction. Every lane, I would say this is a deputy CEO type of role nowadays, right? So jumping into all aspects of technology, all aspects of the business, and have the voice and also the energy and excitement to solve those challenging problems. So that's how the industry has shaped. The next aspect, which is the next 10 years, especially with AI and the cloud that is being democratized now. The opportunities are endless for people in technology. The role AI and some of these modern tools are going to make the technology lives much more simpler. So you have to lean in more on the business side, look at more at the problems and see which tools. It's not about building a tool, because you're going to be at the you're going to have a huge array of tools at your disposal, that you're going to pick the right tools for the right problems to solve. So it's going to be a very interesting next decade of evolution, in my opinion, for CIO or CTO roles.
Oh, absolutely, Aravind. Can't agree more with you. And especially when you talked about, the inventions which we are doing faster and faster, I think is creating a structure in the organization as well, that everybody in the organization today can actually interact with ChatGPT type sort of tools, right? So
Yes.
it doesn't really need a technology now. They really need to solve the biggest problems, the most complex problems of the organization, or social or economical as well. Okay. My next question is, this would require and you said rightly, the deputy CEO, and I nicely call it as a co-pilot, right? I mean, in a flight there is a first officer and a co-pilot there, and you are a co-pilot, a CIO or a CTO, whatever title you get it doesn't really matter. I think it is more about co-piloting. Now, while co-piloting, I think my question is, it's a sheer change of transformation is required. It's a big change which is required. Few nuggets of your leadership, which you have done it in your organization, to change the organization, be ready for the next sort of, sort of transformation, what would those be?
It's a very thought-provoking question. There are digital transformation, or technology transformation, sort of become pretty fancy term in the last several years. But if you go deeper, right, if you really understand what tech transformation or digital transformation means, and what it takes to actually achieve those things, are pretty involved and very exhaustive amount of work that needs to happen. So if you take, for example, the industry that I am in currently, the travel, visa, immigration industry, the industry has been heavily focused on the operations side. It is, if you go to any of the companies who are doing this as a business, if they are expanding their geography from, say, today they serve 10 geography, and then the next year they want to serve 20 geographies, the mindset in these institutions or companies was to, okay, let's double the size. Now, because we are going from 10 geographies to 20 geographies, let's double our staff members and do this more manually, and do it at scale. But digital or tech transformation, what it really means is, if you have the right tools deployed, we have the right tools developed, and also on top of it, the right mindset on how to use these tools to serve our customers better, you don't need to double your staff members. I'm touching a live wire by saying this thing. It's not about just the cost efficiency or making people redundant, but it is about using the power of human potential to solve the more complex problems that computers today are not solving. Right? You don't want. If you want to. If you're uploading a passport picture, you don't want a human to be verifying that it's pretty beneath the human potential, right? Systems can easily look at the documents and say whether this document is in the right format, or can we see all the details? All of these things could be automated. Instead, direct the human to connect with the other human on the other end, right? With the customer, and say, what are some of the problems they are having? Are they in a rush to get these visas? Are they traveling for a reason that that supersedes all of these things, that we can shorten our hops and get this visa to the client faster, right? Those kind of customer support things, human touch that we wanted to use, rather than just having them do mundane things that the computer can do this really effectively. So it's the mindset shift, and also the deploying the right tools at the right scale, and not only that, right? You also have to win your own company employees, right? You have to win them. You have to win in the sense that they should trust the tools that you deploy. They should really work. No employee is going to say, yes, I'm going to go sit here and continue to review these documents. But if you show them that the tool can do this really, really well, they are more than happy to go shift their roles and do something else, right? So it's a combination of all of these things. I said it in a few sentences, but the work behind that is pretty exhaustive to win the employees, your colleagues, your customers, deploying the tools, choosing the right tools, implementing them really well, and bringing the mindset shift that technology can solve these mundane problems, and deploy the human resources to the human touch where needed. So that's at a very high level, in my opinion, that digital transformation or tech transformation means. It may mean differently for different industry, but just taking the use case of the current industry that I am in, this is how I see it.
Excellent. I think, in short, what I understood is that either the jobs and tasks which we do are going to be augmented, or they are going to be automated. I think
Yes.
You need to think in these two terms to define the principle, whether it is augmenting or whether it is automating.
Yes.
And there is no fear to the organization that jobs roles are not going to be there, etc. I'll go to the last part, Aravind, of our discussion. Very critical, actually. If I have some budgets with me. I have $100 with me today. Now the question is, should I be spending those $100 with the new age companies, startups, or should I be spending those $100 with the traditional companies where I'm looking at tools to come in? What's your outlook today, right? Because there's always a challenge, right? I mean, I may want a new age company which could give a better benefit to me, but then I'm taking a risk, right? I mean, these are startups. They may vanish. I mean, 90% of the startups vanish actually. So when you are in a CIO role as a leader, right? Forgetting about what technology tool, but how do you see your investments?
Another great question.
Out of the course question, I think so.
Yeah. Um, you know, whether I'm a individual investor or a leader who's investing in a different company or choosing a vendor or partner, I think I see them all in the same way. It's my view on this is slightly different, Shalil. It's whether it's a small company, a startup, or it's or a company that's been there doing this for a very long time. I don't technically differentiate. There is a small differentiation there. If a company that's been there for 10 or plus years, you have a lot of data that you can go and look at them, right? Their past years performances and balance sheets and whatnot. And but the startup, they don't have that, right? So the history is not there. But if you keep that thing aside, the biggest thing I care for, in my opinion, in a technology company, is the people. It's the people that makes the company. It's the people that makes the products, and they are the ones who are going to make it better. So one of the former CFOs that I worked with used to say that has stuck with me for years is 90% of the assets of the company walk out in the evening, and we hope they come back in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So that's a very powerful statement, and it's not a real estate business or another business where you have a lot of assets that are sitting. In tech, it's all about people. So to give you this long-winded answer, I look at the people who are working on these startups or the established companies, and it's the quality of the people, and it is my personal interactions with them, and or the public forums that they have interacted, understanding, getting a good handle on who they are, what they do, what are they passionate about, and how are they gonna how are they approaching these problems, right? Because companies can fail multiple times, but they can always stand up and deliver in the third iteration, fourth iteration, and fifth iteration. So it is the question of the leadership team. It is the question of the people who are working on it. That's what makes or break a company, in my opinion.
Absolutely, Aravind. I can't agree more with you. I think you gave the answer very differently. Not many people would probably think that way today. Even if I am investing individually into a company, I would look at founders, right? And similarly, if you want to work with that company, you would still need to look at founders and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it. Can't match that answer. I think it's spot on this one. Just very briefly, what's your next blueprint look like from a leadership perspective? What's you're trying to achieve it in the next, let's say, from 1 year to 2 years time?
The next we are living in a very interesting time, right? After internet, the AI explosion has been the biggest technology advancement. So we are closely looking at AI, and we are looking at some of the tools that we are going to deploy for our internal performance optimization, our workforce optimization, and also for tools that are going to serve our clients. So that is a given, and there are new in our industry specifically, right? Pre-pandemic was a different world. post-pandemic is it's completely different. In the sense that countries are, the Brexit happened in the Europe, and so Brexit EU, the travel has become complex. And the travel between different countries like China and Russia due to the war, these are complex problems that we are currently dealing with. So, and then many countries are moving towards e-visa model from a paper visa model, and companies are moving. Some countries are even moving towards visa, 15-day visa-free travel program. So it's a much different landscape now than it was before pre-pandemic. So we are closely monitoring all of these things and developing tools at a rapid pace that is going to be ready. The travel changes, in a large, right? They are trying to make, all countries are trying to make this simple. But in the interim, there is a period where it's super complex for our clients and our customers. They are super confused about, do I need a visa? I am this citizen? My nationality is this. I live here. And so we are developing a lot of assessment tools that are free, and we are going to give it to our clients that's going to rapidly simplify their anxiety when it comes to travel, and also be there for them to guide them and make it really simple. So there are variety of tools and systems that we are developing in the works that are will be deploying in the coming weeks and months. It's going to make our clients' lives easier, and then on top of it, in the technology advancements in terms of AI tools, that's going to be the next gen for us. So there are a lot of there's no depth of work at this point. It's a lot of work. It's all about priority and getting it done.
Can't agree more with you, Aravind, frankly speaking. And you rightly said, if today I have to travel anywhere, right? I don't have any issue of buying a ticket or where do I stay. It's largely sorted, let me say, right? Through Airbnb to hotels and everything. It's all online. But the biggest anxiety is passport and visa.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I need to get a passport. I mean, let's look at, I have the passport, but how do I get the visa? What do I require? I mean, how many documentation, how much time, how much to devote? Do we get the appointment? I mean, and the laws, can I have a, on arrival visa, or the visas are not required? How powerful is the visa? I don't know answers, right? And that's the biggest anxiety anybody has today. If you are able to deploy those kind of tools, I would call it would change, and it will give you a decisive differentiation in the organization, I would say this way. So thank you very much for sharing this with us. I think it's important for other CIOs and technology leaders to understand that today we are sitting to create a decisive competitive differentiation. It's a bold change which we need to bring in, and we are solving the most complex problem. Visa is the most complex problem, I would call it this way. But yeah, thank you for the time today. It's an honor. It's a pleasure to have you and taking out your precious time. I know it's very early morning for you. I'm sure the whole day is there with you. Have a nice day. I know it's chilling there, but I'm wearing jacket just to give you some comfort, right?
It's a pleasure chatting with you, Salil. And you asked some really, really thought-provoking questions, and I hope the viewers get something out of listening to this. And thank you for inviting me, and I feel super honored to be the first guest here. And good luck and best wishes for many more episodes with many eminent leaders. I'm looking forward to listening to every one of them.
Absolutely. And we'll be in touch. Thank you very much, Aravind. Take care.
Take care.